Order of the Torrington Public Schools Board of Education special board meeting continued on Wednesday, June 26th. We'll start with a Pledge of Allegiance. Will you do it, Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry for our cramped spaces, but in summertime we have to move to Mitchell instead of the school. Roll call, please.
Mr. Brady. Dr. Bianca. Here. Mr. Cabanero. Mrs. Gomez. Here. Mr. Kisco.
Here.
Mr. Marola.
Here.
Mr. Nargi.
Here.
Mr. Rivero.
Here.
Mr. Tebow. Mr. Traub.
Here.
Mrs. Batchelder. Here. Mrs. DeMonico. Mr. Jocelyn. Mrs. Flacco. Here. Mayor Bingham. And high school executive.
Thank you. School community session. The board invites members of the community to speak on topics to be addressed in the agenda or on other topics of interest. Individuals wishing to make any comment are requested to fill out the speaker sign-up sheet, including your name and address, which must also be stated at the beginning of your comments. The board will not allow comments regarding specific staff members or personal grievances. Courtesy is expected in this limited public forum. The participating time will be limited to 3 minutes per person and 10 minutes overall to guarantee an efficient operation of the meeting. The next section is wrong because the emergency exits are not located at the rear of the room. They're located at the left and windows all the way around.
And this is the second floor.
Well, it's the quickest way out. Okay, we have, is it Cheryl?
Yes.
Okay.
Cheryl Petta, 62 Railroad Street, Falls Village, Connecticut. I'm also a teacher up at THS, and I wanted to talk about the Torrington Public Schools management changes. And I'm a teacher in a special program at the high school. I help run a LINKS program. And we recently got wind of the remanagement or new management that the Board of Ed is looking at. My program and other special programs in that school survive because of the principal. Whoever it is, doesn't matter. We rely heavily on the principal. We cannot, I guess my understanding is they're going to be kind of like a floater principal between two different schools, ourselves and Torrington Middle School. The issue with that is we have issues that come up that, yes, the assistant principals cannot always handle. We need to have input from whoever this float would be immediate. We have had weapons, we've had issues with drugs, we've had issues with fights, and we just get some weird scenarios that pop up on a daily basis. And even if I did go to an assistant principal, they have to say, I need to get to the principal, I'll get back to you. That's one of the huge issues is our special programs relying on a floater. It would be very difficult for our programs to maintain. Also, our principals are very active part of not only the school, in the classrooms, in the hallways, in the cafeteria. Now, I've been there for 7 years, and for those 7 years, every principal that's been there, you see them in the hall, you see them with kids, and it's every day. They're not just sitting in their office, pushing paper. And also, high school students, if they know there's not the head honcho, they're going to take advantage of that situation big time. Okay? Yeah, I work with a lot of the difficult kids, but even regular ed kids are going to take advantage of a situation where they know that there is not a head person. They really rely on the principal. They love when the principal comes to all the sporting events, the dances, is this one person going to be able to attend everything at the middle school and the high school? The dances, the athletic events, our music programs, which are two very large music programs. I honestly don't feel this person is going to be able to cover 2 schools of this size and do it adequately so the kids feel A, that they're safe, and B, that there is a person there for them at all times who is overseeing both their school, not both schools, their school, and attending their functions. They love when the principal shows up. They'll come to school and they say, guess who's at the program, guess who showed? They love that. Okay, this person's not going to be able to attend everything. It's not going to be humanly possible. Also, the fact that the assistant principals may have to share the special programs that wouldn't be very well good either. We work very well with one assistant principal. If you have to invite and delve us up into 2 or 3, that's another huge issue, okay? Right now, our program and the life skill program, we work with one assistant principal. Works very well. I don't have to run to try and find 4 different principals depending on the kid. I don't have a 9th grade class. I have 9 through 12. My kids range all 4 years. I'm gonna have 4 different assistant principals I have to go running to? Or my kids are gonna be, the kids, it will not be good for the kids at all. They rely on the assistant principal, the one assistant principal, the one principal. And honestly, I think that goes across the board for every school kid, especially at the high school. And I guess that's all I have to say. I'm sorry, I'm not very good at talking.
Okay. Thank you. Crystal Benny.
That's me. I'm Crystal Benny. I am the Vice President of the TEA for the high school. You don't see me at many board meetings because I'm usually grading papers when I have 27 honor students this year, plus everyone else. I've gotten a lot of texts today and calls and emails from teachers. The rumor of the reorganization has been floating between the middle school and the high school for a few weeks now. And once it came to life, once it became a reality, the phone calls and the texts have been coming in. Teachers are very, very concerned that there's not going to be one person that they can go to should there be a problem, should there be a lockdown, should there be some other type of crisis. For those of you who don't know me, I spent over 20 years in one of the Bridgeport high schools, even with 4 assistant principals, a principal, 3 security guards, and Board of Ed policemen. There were at times that there weren't enough people there to deal with all of the situations. Torrington has changed in the last 9 years that I've been up here. We're seeing different problems arising. You need that quick response. You need someone basically managing the ship. It's no casting aspersions for our APs who are doing a great job, but somebody has to take control should that situation arise. I would have hoped that a change like this would have been slowly implemented. Perhaps the director coming in and getting to know the schools before that poor person just takes control of maybe 2 schools they're not familiar with. We have a lot of work at Torrington High School to accomplish. I'm part of the grade 9 team. We're meeting this summer. We were looking for Joanne for direction for things. There's a lot of unfinished business that we have to attend to, and we are very much concerned that, not for the qualifications of the director, but can one person manage 2 very large buildings with a lot of different issues at one time? And as I said, I'm representing many of the high school teachers who are quite upset. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy Peters.
Kathy Peterson, 445 Lorraine Lane. I am the current THS PTO president. I have had children at Torrington High School since the year 2007. My last kids graduated last week. I am remaining as the PTO president because we can't get anyone else to do it. I am very concerned about this management change. That person will be in charge of 2,200 kids. I'm not going to voice Cheryl like the name was. I agree with her. The continuity, the rapport between not only the teachers and the principal, but the kids and the principal is important. These kids notice when not only does the principal, the assistant principal, or board members, they know when you come to functions. It means a lot to them. I live up by the middle school. If there's a problem, it's 6 miles from the middle school to the high school. It's not an easy way to get there quickly if there's an emergency. I was extremely upset to find that this job has already been posted. I feel that I would like to know what other districts in Connecticut have this type of management system and what problems they have. Is it a success or is it not a success? I think we're jumping into this way too quickly. We have a lot of problems at the middle school. We have a lot of problems at the high school. We need our own principal at each school. probably a hurtful thing for our school system.
Anthony Lopez.
Anthony Lopez, 101 Sunny Lane, Vice President of Torrington High School PTO. I guess the only concern I have, I'm not going to get into what they talked about, it's a little different, is I mean, there seems to be a lot of change, you know, going on here at central office with leadership and, you know, high level positions, turnover, for whatever reason. I don't know, but I just know people are leaving or what have you. I just don't, I would just like, going forward, I'd like to, you know, ask the board maybe to reconsider like forming committees and hiring committees for some of these people, not, you know, not just, you know, hire it amongst yourself, but bring in some of the people from the community, some of the teachers, some other principals. These are really important positions, and we haven't really been able to keep, you know, anything really constant, consistent, and it looks like you're going to be rebuilding a team. It might be a good time, you know, to have more minds involved. And, you know, I'd ask you guys to consider getting, you know, putting some sort of committee together for, maybe certainly for this high-ranking position, but as the wheel turns and people are moving around, just to consider that. You know, the public and the teachers and other leaders in the school and the board. That's it, thank you.
Point of order. The public here has no idea what anyone's speaking about, only your employees do. Maybe the administration or the board could do 3 sentences on what everyone else is talking about.
Well, we can't change the agenda of a special meeting. A point of order is called by a board member, not by a member of the public. We're going to continue with the agenda the way that, unfortunately, Robert's Rules lays it out. And we have one more speaker, and then you're going to learn all about what they're discussing. Robin Magistrale.
Okay, Robin Magistrale. I live at 168 Coffee Road. I am a faculty member at Torrington High School, and I also had 4 children, 3 graduates of Torrington Public Schools, and 1 rising senior at Torrington High School. I wanted to just speak about the process. I agree with Mr. Lopez that these are big positions. It's a big change, and I'm concerned that key players, that the stakeholders haven't been involved. Students, parents, teachers, we're all partners in this process. And if this is to happen, I feel so much better about it if the process had been thoughtful, and perhaps it has been thoughtful, but it seems abrupt, and the key players are not involved in the process. And thanks for the opportunity to speak.
Okay, informational sharing, Torrington Public School Management Restructuring.
What I've prepared for the board tonight is just the basic fiscal structure of where administrative positions, how they would be organized within the district on the secondary level only, and just a brief summary of some of those positions. I would like to remind the board that this was one of your goals for this year, is to develop a structure and an organization that provided greater continuity from 6th through 12, not only in curriculum and instructional practices, but what we do as far as how we handle discipline, contact and engagement with parents, approach to response for intervention, and just to have a more common pathway for our students from the time they enter 6th grade, which is considered our secondary school, through 12th grade upon graduation. One of the biggest things that I know the board has heard a lot about over the course of the year but what all the changes that are coming down from the state and mandates that are attached to them, including Common Core state standards, the development and application of the curriculum to meet these standards, teachers' ability to understand these standards, to work with the curriculum, and also to apply instructional strategies so that students meet the academic outcomes. The implementation of the new assessments, because one of the things is that assessments will no longer be paper and pencil, but they will be through technology. And we were informed, we've been in a 2-day training process as administrators just on the administrative evaluation, not even the teacher evaluation. All administrators must attend a week-long workshop on the new teacher evaluation and take an assessment at the end of it and see if they can really implement it and they truly understand what it's about and can explain it to their teachers. So that is another big piece of all of this. And the concern that I've heard from many teachers and administrators across the district is that we don't have enough people on the ground in the buildings that support with the instruction of students, the discipline of students, the general support for students. How do we take these standards, and how do we have the right instructional strategies with the teacher evaluation process, the piece where the number of goals that a teacher must set, the number of visits and observations that they must have, the fact that in order to implement all of this, the goal of becoming professional learning communities where teachers have opportunity to sit and have dialogue on learning instruction, on learning and teaching, and how does that fit into the school day? Who can lead these meetings? Who can keep all the members of the teaching community aware? How do we develop intervention strategies for students that we know that are at risk? How does it all get done? And so with this reconstruction, it was really thought about and looked at with the focus on the classroom and the teacher. And so I probably should have had this on an overhead. Sorry, I didn't make enough copies for everybody here tonight. Didn't know how many were coming. But the way it was broken down, and just so you're aware that the biggest cuts came from the central office so that we could put people in the middle school and the high school to, again, support the teachers and support the needs of the students with getting the right kind of instruction they need so they can be successful to meet the kinds of needs and expectations. I just want to share one thing with the board right now. This is a sample, a very simple sample of 2 ends of Common Core, just so you have some idea of what is expected of our educators. Yeah, it's 2 sheets. The first one is first grade expectations in language arts. It's the standards for literature and it's reading standards for informational text. That means nonfiction. And when you look, you look at the key ideas and details, craft and structure, integration of knowledge and ideas. This is for first grade. And so one thing is identify words and phrases in stories or poems that suggest feelings or appeal to the senses. Explain major differences between books that tell stories and books that give information. All right, first grade. Then, just to give you the span, on the back you'll see the standards or the expectations for the foundation skills. What do they need? Print concept, phonological awareness, phonics and word recognition. And it goes on to fluency, and then it'll go on to writing, and it goes on to speaking and listening. All right, that's first grade. And the second set, front and back, is what's expected of 9th and 10th graders. So these are the standards to which teachers must work so that our students perform successfully on the assessments that will be given by the state, the new Smarter Balance Assessment. So I just thought you need to see, because the expectations, we talk about rigor a lot. What does rigor mean and what does it look like? I think these are much more rigorous than what's been expected. We've been working on it for 2 years, but due to limitations with developing curriculum, we're there, but not as good as we need to be. So when you take a look at this structure, you still, have a superintendent, you have a director of human resources, director of business services, director of secondary education, director of facilities, and director of special education. Funding that has in the past gone for assistant superintendent, we have taken that money and pushed it or put it into 3 positions. Curriculum instruction, assessment, and technology, 2 at the secondary level, 1 in humanities and 1 in science, and also 1 at the elementary, but that elementary position for the first year or second year, for 2 years, may be flexible as we move to this design. This is something that, I talked to Joanne about, and how do we make the transition to this? You also see that you will have a director or a head of guidance. This is something that you haven't had before. And then you have a breakdown where there will be an assistant principal and a guidance counselor for every grade level. So we're trying to make smaller communities within the larger communities. In the case of 6, 7, and 8, you would have an assistant principal. When the children enter in 6th grade, that assistant principal would stay with that group for 3 years, what's known in elementary as looping. So then it's like creating a smaller school within the middle school. On the 9th grade area, we're looking at the 9th grade academy. That really works with the whole transition of children from 8th grade to 9th grade and the differences of what it's like going from the middle school to the high school. That would remain the same. That same assistant principal would be responsible for 9th graders and the teams that have been formed and developed, because that's such a critical year for students entering high school. The greater success we have with 9th graders, the more success we'll have with our graduation rate. Then with the 10th, 11th, and 12th, again, smaller communities. We graduated about 250 the other day. That's a nice size school within a school. And so looking at, there would be at least the assistant principal and the counselor tied to 1 grade level, so students have that foundation to work with. But then the other component is that they would also, you have to develop your whole evaluation system. And given what is expected with the new teacher evaluation system, with the number of goals teachers must set, with the number of observations that a principal must do, even though we're adding an assistant principal to both the elementary and the to the middle school and the high school, the CIATs, Curriculum Instruction, Assessment, and Technology, those people would also have an 092 so that they could support with this supervision component and with the mainly in the support of direct relationship and working with teachers on a daily basis so that the standards can be met. I would expect the director of secondary education to be housed at the high school. I would not expect them to just be in an office all day long. I would expect them to be as active as any principal in a high school, and then at the middle school. And then the director of guidance or head of guidance would also be at the high school. So what we're looking at is we're adding 1, 2, 3, 4, possibly 5 positions in administration to the high school, but mainly for the support of the needs of the students and with the teachers in curriculum and instruction. And that's it in a nutshell. There's a breakdown of every position. I gave you the Director of Secondary Education, job responsibilities. Then I put in the Director of Human Resources, the Head of Guidance, Director of Business Services, Curriculum Instruction and Assessment and Technology. I mean, and they're much more extensive. I just wanted to give some highlights of what it would look like. What the Director of Secondary Education would do is really develop the team of 7 assistant principals and the CIATs and the Director of Guidance, and job duties, responsibilities, and it would remain people who are currently there and adding 2 more. That's just a nutshell.
Who would be housed at the middle school?
At the middle school, if I go with the 3 CIATs instead of 2, instead of having 1 for elementary, that 3rd curriculum instruction person would be housed at the middle school, and the other 2 will be housed at the high school.
So
And the
3
thing
APs and a CIAT.
at the middle school, and 4 APs, and the Director of Secondary Education at the high school. But I would never have that 3rd CIAT and the Director of Secondary Education in the same building at the same time. So there's always a go-to person.
So who would an assistant principal at the middle school go to if they got an issue?
They could go to the CIAT or the Director of Secondary Education.
Two questions, one for Cheryl and one for you, Mr. Chairman. Will the board ever get a chance to vote on this?
It's an administrative
It's a
change.
fait accompli, right? It's a fait accompli. It's been done. So it doesn't even need really to be discussed now. It's going to happen.
It's an informational sharing. They've made a management decision to change the structure of the school based on the board goal that we did.
It brings me to my second question. Cheryl, you used the word "we" in talking about restructuring. Who's we?
Who's we?
Yeah. You said we, and I'm just wondering who we is.
I spoke with not TEA, I spoke with Administrative Association, shared it with the president and the co-chair presidents. With my leadership team here in the building.
Okay, no board input.
Yes, board input too.
And who would that be from the board?
The executive committee.
This, Mr. Chairman, back to you for a question. This was on the agenda of the Personnel Committee on the 12th, and when it came up, the chairman said we were going to skip that in another item, and when I asked why, he said that the evaluations for central office staff weren't ready, which didn't make any sense to me, but sometimes things don't make sense to me. And it was listed on that agenda as the presentation and recommendation for TPS management. So we've changed our mind, and it would no longer be a recommendation, but it would be an accomplishment.
I don't write those agendas, so I didn't write that.
Well, but somebody signs them. This particular one isn't signed. Cheryl, is that your signature pen on this? I mean, it's not on
Yes,
this copy,
I sign
but-
all the agendas, yes.
So at one point it was a recommendation, but it no longer is. Is there a reason that it changed from being a recommendation to fait accompli?
No, just when we,
Thank you.
Chris?
The
concept of looping at the middle school seems clear, but at the high school, I'm less clear as to what's happening with each assistant principal. So I'm just wondering if you could revisit and elaborate on
It would, the 9th grade is an academy format which looks more the way 8th grade is organized with teams. And so.
9th grade year to year will stay a 9th grade
Yes,
assistant.
and it will stay that person because that 9th grade has begun, since last year was the first year of the 9th grade academy, that has begun some really good parts and pieces, and having the students adjust to 9th grade, understanding what the expectations are, how it's different than middle school, you know, the homework expectations, the whole piece. The 9th grade is a transitional year, probably very similar to when children go from pre-K to K, and the grade changes and the expectations of them. And so, and then next with the 9th, 10th, or with 10th, 11th, and 12th, we could go back to the looping. So whoever picks up the 10th then would stay with them through the 11th and the 12th year, stay with them for the 3 years until they graduate and then go back to the 10th grade. And the continuity of having, I'm sorry, Chris, but the continuity of having the same assistant principal with the students, with the families, you know, families will now know who to go to, who to speak to, who to have direct contact with.
I guess I understand the desire to have this transition for 9th grade if the ultimate impact is to decrease graduation rates, and so that's your way of doing that. But I guess I fail to understand why looping 6 through 8 is good, looping 10 through 12 is good, 9 is static if the underlying benefit of looping is to have the administrator follow the child and the guidance follow the child. I'm just not drawing that connection.
That was on the advice when I spoke with the two principals of the middle school and high school. Because to stay consistent with the practice of the 9th grade. I mean, you know, on the elementary grade levels, it's the first 6 weeks of school, while in the high school, it's the first year of school.
The one thing that concerns me, I just wondered if you could speak to it, is you're having a guidance follow an entire class. So when it comes to senior year, you have one guidance counselor that's then responsible for getting college recommendations out for potentially 250 children. Do you see that as an obstacle, or has discussions with guidance been on?
Well, there's still floater guidance. There's 5 guidance counselors plus then the head of guidance.
Okay.
So we have 5 or 6. We have 6. So we have 2 guidance counselors that may not be attached. And so when you think of what are the big times of when there's extra help needed with a class, it would be when they first come in, when they, junior to senior year, or actually sophomore to junior year, and looking and thinking about college application, you know, what's my career path, the piece of implementation of the school success plans. There's a whole school success curriculum, so as we tighten up with those pieces that are mandated by the state, we will be more organized and better prepared to assist students in helping them apply to colleges and where they're going. And go ahead.
My concern would be that you're having a lot of burden on 9 through 12. You have a guidance. I like the idea, as my understanding is the practice now. A guidance counselor has known a student so long as he or she's been in district 9 through 12. So when it comes, they have been there every step of the way to prepare, mentor, etc. And then if we're having these float guidance counselors assist 9 through 12, I mean, is that 9 and 12? So the 12, I don't want to micromanage, but it seemed really important to me that the guidance counselor who knows the student is writing the recommendations and making sure, versus, well, we have a lot of issue, or we have an inundation of work that needs to be done, so we're going to have another guidance counselor go up to 12th grade and take half the alphabet, for example, and that
Oh, for
totally
that
defeats
one
the-
year, yeah,
the
no, they,
purpose in my mind.
they would be, as with the school success plans, those two guidance counselors would be involved with students throughout their entire high school career. Wherever the support is needed, each class has its own profile, you know, and needs. And so depending upon the needs of the grade level will determine how those two help. Joanne, how many students applied to continue education this year? You know, we're looking at 2-year or 4-year colleges.
The majority of our 250 were
We usually have about 75% between the two.
We each have about 225 on our caseload, all 6 of us.
It's usually a,
That would be an impossible task.
it's usually about a 50% 4-year, 25% 2-year, somewhere in that range, equaling about 75.
I just have one other thing, Cheryl. This CIAT that's designated elementary, but it sounds like most likely will end up at least
In the secondary,
okay.
as we make the transition.
So the purpose of this individual is related, the C is curriculum?
Curriculum.
Yeah, okay. So we have curriculum of humanities and then we have a math science. So what curriculum then is the third individual focusing on?
It would be, with that, it could be any of the other, it could be any of the other core content areas. You know, it could be social studies, it could be science, it could be wherever it's needed. And it'll be at the middle school, so it will probably be all 4 core content areas. Because right now we have no one in either building. We have instructional leaders, which meet on a grade level, but they really will not be responsible with the load that these people will have. So that person who's going to go to the middle school will have to be able to do all 4.
No, this is something we all discussed before, rotating assistant principals, that's not new to us. And I actually like the idea. This is one of our goals, it makes perfect sense. I agree with Chris over here that, not speaking to, the 9th grade academy at all, but it just sort of makes sense that you would just have the same person straight through. If that means we have to sort of eliminate that program,
I thought that way too, but
then fine.
when I talked about it with the principals, they said, yeah, they thought, okay, that's a beginning spot, so, it's the training or the special work that assistant principal may have to do. I'll be honest with you, as an administrator, you should be able to do it all, okay? These are 092s, they're all receiving the same salary once they have a PhD, and regardless of if you're at the middle school or the high school, yes, different problems, different curriculum, but you still should be able, to do it all as an administrator. And many elementary principals are expected to do it all in buildings with 500 students. I guess that's the premise I was coming from. The same expectation should be held for every single administrator, whether they're a CIAT. They should know the kids. They will be leading the RTI teams, okay? They'll be leading, and which is, intervention for children and students at risk. Well, an assistant principal on a grade level should already know who their students are who are at risk and what intervention, what do we need, and like what has been what happened this year with the 9th grade, that they had a tutoring center, but then the teachers themselves took on the responsibility that during one of their planning times, they provided extra intervention for students who may be having difficulty in the classroom. Yeah, that's what we need to do, and have more children, more students successful in graduating based on the rigors of what's expected in public education today.
The only thing that's new to me on here is the elimination of the assistant superintendent. And
Well, and if from what people have said tonight, the elimination of principals, separate principals in the high school and the middle school.
Wait, I'm sorry?
Yeah, but that, Vincent's question, but that wasn't new in the, when we talked about this
No,
back
yeah.
here. We had planned on the
Yeah.
The
elimination.
assistant
of the
superintendent,
principals.
the new,
The elimination.
that's the first I've heard of it.
It's the only way that we could afford to get the curriculum people
Right. But I wanted to, I mean, is there,
and
are there
an
other-
extra assistant principal at the high school.
which, you know, sounds, I mean, you have more boots on the ground, like you said.
It's
Out of, you know, Virginia Avenue and out on the ground.
Right
Sounds
there.
great. But are there is there anything else that the assistant superintendent did or does that is now being picked up elsewhere? It's just, that's a redesign that we haven't discussed at all up until
right.
tonight.
And you look at the specific pieces, but with 3 curriculum people, there are many of the pieces that were done there can be picked up by curriculum people. Because that's been the primary responsibility of the assistant superintendent, was the curriculum instruction assessment and, you know, technology. And now it's divided up among 3, so we can add that piece of support to classroom teachers, better intervention strategies, an opportunity to meet and discuss these interventions. You know, how do we do more with less?
Ellen, I'm sorry, I'm past you.
I have the same concerns with them being in the 9th grade academies, but it's your money. See if it works.
Can you tell me at what full board meeting in the past year you presented this to?
No, I did not present that.
You never presented this
No, but the
actual
pieces, no, the
change.
pieces were in the budget.
They were in the budget.
Yes, they were.
Because I thought the budget actually showed that we had an assistant superintendent in the budget. Does this show an assistant superintendent? So how was it in the budget?
Because we put the curriculum people, we added 1 more curriculum person and 1 more person as an assistant principal at the high school.
So it wasn't transparent at the budget time that we were not going to have this, in this upcoming budget year,
Never-
an assistant superintendent.
Mr. Nargi, one of the things that I have learned since my tenure here is that the best way to kill something,
Is to tell the board?
no.
Well, who did you tell? Because you didn't tell, we have a TEA representative here who says this is the first time they've heard of it. You have parents who are saying they never heard of this. We have another board member who wants to know, when did he hear of this? So I'm just trying to, but you do say that you told the 3 executive members of the board what you were doing. So
Not
those
this
3.
specific, not this specific, but knowing I had to create a budget,
Yeah,
that I had the money, right?
yeah.
Because if we didn't get the money, then we couldn't do this, okay? And so why put out something like this without the money in hand, without the positions or the ability to shift positions with, no, really,
Because you
think
weren't
about it.
truthful to the
Excuse me.
board at the budget. That's what the budget is all
Who's-
about, is to be clear.
Wait a
in-
minute,
Andrew,
Why?
at the budget meetings,
Yes.
there were several board members that requested a reduction in administration at Midgeon Avenue, and it was discussed, the only non-mandated position at Midgeon Avenue is the assistant superintendent. So it was discussed that we would look into that
Yeah.
as the administration. As the budget came to an end, and we were right within pennies of trying to make it balance at our last meeting. We actually closed the budget without having it balanced. We left the superintendent to find $50,000.
and you look at how long we worked in the school improvement committee just to get one program, just to get one program, okay?
Right.
And what happened at the end, it disappears.
So
Okay, it gets cut with the
You
budget.
lost trust in the board, is what you're saying, that the
No,
board acted too
you're
slow.
making, no,
Because
no.
I sit on the school improvement, and I would have thought within the last year of sitting on school improvement, that something this dramatic of a change, and I'm not even arguing the merits, the quality of what you're trying to do. I'm just
But you want,
so disturbed that you didn't bring it through the channels that we as a board set up, which is to have a school improvement committee, so as to hash out these types of things in the course of a year. Not after we do the budget and the budget is set. In the month of June, this is the first time we get to see your master plan.
we've cut an assistant superintendent, which is not mandated by the state to have, and we've put in 3 curriculum people that are working, are in the schools on a daily basis, providing support to classroom teachers and determining what type of support students need who might be at risk so that they can be successful. Daily basis, hand in hand. Okay?
I think you're missing the point, which is the point is, as a board member, seeing this presentation tonight and knowing that your only real communication is to 3 board members, the executive committee of the board, I now have no trust in what you or the 3 executive board members are doing, because it's clearly not transparent in the functioning of our monthly meetings that you are telling us what transpires. I mean, this is huge. This is a huge change in how this school district is being run. And I'm not arguing that you're not acting in the best interest of the students of this school district, but
it was also,
you know,
no, wait a minute. It was a goal. Just one last thing.
No. Andrew?
Yeah.
In October,
yeah,
we laid this exactly out in our board goal. We laid out exactly what we wanted them to do in creating a grade level based administrator.
Okay.
The only switch, or the only change in this, was the superintendent's decision to not renew the assistant superintendent and to add an extra person doing curriculum at a grade level.
And if
So
you're saying this was laid out in October, so you had November, January, December, February, why was it that this was never vented to the school improvement committee or the board in general, that this is the progress we're making, this is how we'd like to lay this administrative program for the upcoming school year? I don't understand that. Why?
But this is exactly what we asked her to do.
Yeah, but why weren't we so...
We don't have to be notified when we instructed her to do this.
Well, she notified you that it was being done though, right? She kept you updated on this. She never kept...
Not the specifics.
I saw this for the first time.
Mr. Kisco just asked her that question, and her response was...
She said in crafting the layout of it and in talking about different positions.
Yes.
She did not talk about the fact that this was given to us months ago, and we've been holding it from you.
That was her answer to Mr. Kisco.
Her answer to Mr. Kisco, Mr. Nargi, if you say she doesn't listen, you need to listen.
I did listen.
The answer was that, yes, she did talk to us about different pieces at different times. She would call and say, hey, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
And we would just tell her what we thought. And it
why
wasn't that it
she
was all drawn
presenting
out.
this in a public session? That's how we do things, supposedly do things at the board level, is to do things in public, where the public, the press, everyone has a right to listen to how she's transforming the city school system.
Yes.
Well,
And in the last
nobody
couple
in
of
this
weeks-
room knew about it except
Because
for
this
the
came up
three.
in the last couple of weeks. We haven't had a meeting.
Right, and she's going to implement it starting July 1st.
She is going to implement what we directed her to implement.
No, she's not going to do that, because you just said earlier that this was a management decision, that the board, it's only informational what we're doing tonight, and she has the unilateral ability to implement this without the board's advice and consent. That's my comment. I'm not arguing that what you're trying to do isn't good for the school district. It's just being on the board as long as I have, I really find it objectionable when administrators do not clearly keep the board apprised of maybe minor decisions, but it's clearly something that
is affecting the operation and administration of this school district.
Mr. Nargi,
That's
you know
all I
what's
have to say.
difficult to,
What
is that to do something, you need to have the money to do it first, because it's foolish to put, no, please listen.
Yeah, I am, but I
Okay,
didn't know what
okay.
way.
No, but the look was so.
So I'm just going my head down for a second.
Okay. Okay, in order to do something successfully, you have to make sure you have the money there, okay? Second of all, you have to look where your greatest need is. And our greatest need is at our secondary level, and especially at our high school. I've listened to you talk about your concerns for the high school. Can we, through smaller learning communities, make it a safer place, make it, can we have our dropout rate? Mr. Kisko, you've been so concerned about the rigor and what's happening and the use of online learning, and maybe, well, this way, because teachers truly understand where students need to be to achieve academic performance. Can that happen? Because teachers will now have greater support. We don't have department chairs. We're so thin on the administrative level that I figured it's better to make it thinner on the top and put it in the schools. Now, if I didn't get the money with, if I didn't think I had the money to do it from the budget, it would have been silly to start talking about this earlier, because it would have wound up like the alternative school did 3 years ago. We were ready to implement, hours of work went into it, and what happened? We didn't have the funding. So it's like, oh, another idea comes forward, and where does it go? And what does that make all of us look like? Extremely foolish people with, all these grandiose ideas, but no way of how to make it work. And then, because I was restructuring, and with restructuring, I was eliminating some positions, I had to make sure that the people whose positions were going to be eliminated, that I followed a process and procedure through that elimination that did not end up in a high expense for the board, okay? And then I had to do it all within, from the time that the budget passed till June 30th. That's the time frame I had to do it in. And I had to have certain pieces in place before it goes public, okay? Because otherwise, there would be so many other pieces that would be picked up by the press, distorted possibly, sorry Jessica, okay? But could be distorted by public, by talk, and so that it loses the whole purpose of why it was brought forth. And because this truly is trying to focus on the children and their needs, and to have teachers be able to come to develop professional learning communities where teachers can talk about kids, talk about their needs, talk about their teaching practices, what works, what doesn't work, so that we can truly get to the work of the schools, and that's educating our children. Thank you for listening.
Yes, I do.
I see you smiling.
Yes, I do. Okay, first of all, this is, in general, this is very definitely in broad strokes what we asked the administration to do by our board goals. That is correct. However, having said that, as a former chairman, I will make my comments. Ken, I really think you are a very, very good chairman of the board. I really do. I think you mishandled this, because the criticism that's being leveled at you really belongs to you. You represent the board. This is the difference between general design specs and a final product is huge. You wouldn't do it in your work. You wouldn't assign somebody to give us a general idea of what you wanted to do and then just let them do it and not have it come to you for final approval. This should have been vetted through the board. And the frustration I hear on virtually everyone here is the feeling that we are left out of the loop on this, and this is going to determine the effectiveness of our middle school, high school program for the foreseeable future. It is a huge step forward, and the board should have been included in finally stamping. For every reason why there is a Board of Education, because we represent the community, and this needs the full support and approval of the board, not just the chairman and not just the executive officer. It really needs that to have the gravitas for the community to buy into this thing. So I think this was mishandled. I'll leave it at that, okay? And I think in particular to John Kisco, because you know he was given tasked with an ad hoc committee, right, to look at the high school in particular, and to have this be running parallel to that, and not have whatever it is work he has been doing brought into this discussion. Once again, is frustrating. I'll use that word, and I would think enormously disappointing. I would think for John. Having said that, to get the specifics of what's in front of us, I do understand that you needed to get money, you know, a dollar figure in advance, knowing that there was going to be this, and therefore you had to do all that. I agree, but this needed the full board approval. It damn well did, and I'm disappointed that it didn't.
The design or
the final design, coming forward with the final design to the board. You know, it should have been a full board meeting that just said, here's our proposal. We want you to approve this. We're gonna ask you to approve it, and then lay it out like we're doing tonight. You know, to get the specifics of yes, sure.
Okay.
Can I address that because it was
Yes.
addressed to me?
Yes.
I contacted Shipman and Goodwin.
Yep.
They went through the bylaws because I didn't know if we had to hold a special meeting to do this. And the interpretation from Shipman and Goodwin is that this is a management thing. It's not covered in our bylaws that we establish the outline of the personnel at the school levels. So they didn't feel it warranted a special meeting just for this topic. So we were going to put it into the board retreat so that at the board retreat, we could vet the whole thing, we could go through it, and everyone would understand it, and if tweaks had to be made, we could make the tweaks before the school started. So that was why there wasn't a special meeting. I contacted legal to get their input on our bylaws and the way that a restructuring of management should happen. So based on that, that's how I went.
We're the board, you know, you represent us.
Mm-hmm.
There was no need to lawyer up on this. You know, we're 10 elected officials. You know, 9 other people besides yourself. You should have sat us down and said, how do you want to deal with this? We got the design, we got the final things, how do you guys want to deal with it? Talk to us.
You can't do that without a meeting.
Well, have the damn meeting.
Okay.
Have the meeting. Have it
That's
put
what
it
I
on the
checked on,
agenda.
was
Put it on the agenda and say, we have a design now. We have a fully fleshed out design based on board goals for restructuring and blah, 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 blah. We're going to put it on the meeting. If it has to be an executive session, well, it's not executive session. No, we're going to put it on the meeting for discussion. You know, just like we do every other little minor thing. For God's sakes, you bring it up from the board to get feedback. It goes back to committee. It goes back to school improvement. It goes back to the ad hoc. It goes back, you know, for further working. You know, you can accelerate this. I need this by next week. I need you guys to make this decision by the next meeting in 4 weeks. It could have been done. You could have gotten this, you know, into the loop, and then you wouldn't have felt. You know, you've got a problem with this now. I'm just telling you, Ken.
I asked for board goals for 8 months and got none. We have a board retreat coming up in 2 weeks. How many people
But you got this
sent me
board
goals?
goal. But you got this
None.
board goal, Ken. You got this board goal.
But
You got this board, and this is the major board goal.
There's
But this
nobody
is
that responds, Paul. That's my point.
you
You're
put it
saying
on.
I can ask,
You
but I
put
don't
it on
get
the.
any
You put it on
response.
the agenda with this as the one topic to discuss, and we discuss it, and that's done. You know, and everybody else said we should do this. We did it. Come back, and then next week we're going to approve this thing. You know, or not.
And I hear your
That's a
comment.
process. That's a
did
process
go-
discussion, and I don't think we have to go any further. I think we said it.
I
you know.
understand.
But my final point is going forward with this now, without getting the board input. You know, you guys are out there now. You know, nobody can claim that the board is behind this. You know, because you haven't done that. You know, and you're talking about a major restructuring here that you're out on your own. And personally, that's just not the way I would have done this. But and quite frankly, it goes to trusting other initiatives coming down. You know, that the board puts out in front of the administration to go forward with it. You know, you put somebody on a subcommittee, to come up with a wellness plan, Does the board behind it or isn't behind it? What does it mean if the board is working on this? If you're gonna go out, you can say, well, we're not going on it. It was, well, yeah, but you already did. So what I'm saying is, there's a trust, there's a disruption in trust involved in the process the way it's handled. That's my concern, that's my criticism. I have specifics about this that I'd like to address.
Can I ask a question? How do you reorganize with a limited amount of money?
Yep.
Okay, and design something like this, knowing that people are going to lose their jobs, and you're trying to
You just did it though.
No. I did it within. Only one person was lost, not lost, but only one position right now was eliminated because Steve moved to Milford. He took a new job. Okay, Joanne is still here with us. Okay, how do you go? I figured it would take a whole year. And I did work on this, did a lot of research and everything else. Okay, worked with my own consultant that I work with. How do you eliminate that position and try to create when someone knows that you're pulling them out? And when you go into something like this and you need the support of the main team to get the work done. Okay, that's another piece of it. That balancing the way a school year works, when people's contracts are.
I understand, but what's I guess upsetting or frustrating for me is that you did it. You guys did everything except bring the board in.
No, put it here. I did everything.
All I'm saying is you did this. You got the design. All you needed to do was bring the board in for a full discussion and then approval.
We can't approve this though. That's what you're not understanding.
What?
And this is what infuriates me. We have all these meetings. At the retreat last year, the attorney specifically talked to us about the fact that we can't tell the superintendent what she can and can't do with management. We only evaluate the superintendent. If she wants to make this management change and we're not happy with it,
we fire her.
We fire her. But we can't tell her she can't do this.
And you won't have to just tell me now.
Well, if you want to, well, hold on.
So at the board retreat, I planned on.
Hold on. Wait a second. This goes actually to Andrew's point. What is financing this is a budget that we approved where none of this was involved.
Yes, it was.
What wasn't involved?
Your guidance, your curriculum people, your RTI, they were RTI.
Our assistant superintendent?
Hmm?
Our assistant superintendent?
Yeah.
Is in the budget?
Yes. But that's what got you the 3 curriculum people.
You're missing the point. You are missing the point. We approved the specific batch of line items. You are changing those line items. I think that absolutely rises to the level then of us having approval.
What happens is the approval of the transfer of the funds from that line item go to the budget committee. The budget committee votes on it, it goes to the full board. If the superintendent needs to move money, it goes there. It doesn't go right to the full board. You don't come in
Eliminating
and-
positions, that's not board approval?
We approve that, it's gonna bring up our other discussion.
Goes to consent agenda.
In executive. There's limited responsibility and authority we really have. We do not have the authority to tell the superintendent what positions the superintendent will or will not have. We can evaluate the superintendent based on decisions made, but we don't have, if we design the system and run the system for the superintendent, you cannot evaluate the superintendent because it's you that did it, not the superintendent. And at our retreat last year, they were very clear in making sure we didn't cross those lines, which was what made me lawyer up and call them because this is a big change. It's a big change that in the past probably went to the board, which left me in a spot to say, I don't know if it should or shouldn't. I know when my wife was on the board, decisions like this went to the board. But I sat through where we paid a guy to sit here and tell us what we should and shouldn't be doing as a board. And one of the things that he clearly stated was we cannot run the school district. We can't say, hire Susie, fire John, hire Patrick.
No, positions though, positions.
It's a management decision. It's not in our bylaws, it's not, so that's why I called them. And they reviewed them and they said this is an informational sharing thing that the superintendent is telling you what their management strategy is. Yes.
But we can recommend to the superintendent that she not do this and then let her go from there.
Yes.
My take on this is that the story in the press is going to be that the board went to the Board of Finance for, under a certain set of expectations for a certain amount of money, and now that we have the money, we're doing something else with it. And I don't think that's going to sit well with the town, nor should it. I think they elected us as a Board of Education to oversee things like this and to stop things like this from happening. That's what I think.
There hasn't been any change in spending.
There hasn't been any change in the amount.
But it goes,
No,
it does
there
go,
hasn't
what
been
John's
any
saying is
change
the
in
percent, but
There's
you
no
should have
change in
gotten the
spending
board's
until the
blessing
board
on
approves
this.
the change of it.
But legally, you didn't have to do it, I'll buy that, legally, you didn't have to do it, but you should have gotten the board's blessing. Yeah, you should have, yeah.
This press story is going to be, we lost one administrative position and added 3. Because we're talking 092s, right? The people that were in the budget before, people who were there, were not 092s, were they? Your response to intervention people, as we called them 3 months ago?
No, I'm calling them your curriculum instruction
Now you
assessment.
are, but they were something else when we
Yeah.
went before the Board of Finance, and they did not require 092s. They were less expensive people.
But they weren't doing curriculum to the extent that these people will be
Pretty
doing
much my
it.
point.
And the other piece is that your assistant superintendent was also 093, but she wasn't a certified teacher.
Didn't have to be an 093, though.
No, but she was. She was 092 and 093.
Beyond the process thing, can I ask a specific question about this? All the elementary principals are going to report to you directly?
They do
Okay,
now.
They do now, okay, fine. The CIATs, at the school level, okay, I agree with, I'm not sure if this is where you were going with that, I think maybe you were going closer to that, about the 9th grade. The whole point of merging the secondary and high school, for one, right, was to have a
Continuity.
line continuity level.
Yep.
Yeah, but by not rotating out that 9th grade principal, you're saying that therefore there is this bump. It isn't the entire purpose, the fundamental purpose for doing this, to eliminate the bump. Okay? So if we're doing it correctly, everything should be transparent. There should be no bump. And to have to keep that 9th grade assistant principal, their position there, you're almost admitting defeat before you even begin this.
That was not part of my plan, but when I spoke to the principals, that's what they said. Keep the 9th grade stable, keep the same person as the administrator, and I'm just saying,
But you're the, okay, so you own this, you're the top dog. I would say no. That's the CYA, that sounds like a fallback position, quite frankly. You know, that sounds like old school, that sounds like the way we've been doing it. The whole point of this is to redo and rethink the way we're doing this, so that there is seamless transition, right, from 6 through 12. Number 2, discipline. The 6th grade assistant principal will be responsible for handling all the discipline issues?
For 6th grade.
For 6th grade, okay. What happens when a 6th and 7th graders get involved in some dust-up? Then they work it out together? How's that all work out? Who does the paperwork? They do it for their own kids?
They do it online, yes.
Each one takes care of their own?
Yep. And generally, I can say, except for the bus, most incidences are among the same grade levels in middle school.
Okay, and now, who's got priority here? They already, neither, the 10th grade assistant principal has no more or less oversight over the CIAT, math science? Or do they? Okay, so the assistant principal has something with the math science, they're gonna go to this person.
Oh, no, they'll work, this is across the board. All these assistant principals will have to work with these 2 people.
Okay.
It's like your language arts people on the elementary level. Only at the secondary now will have both math and literacy, numeracy and literacy.
Okay. Yeah, that's it for me, thank you.
Couple things. This is the first time the executive committee has seen this chart. Yes, everybody knows.
I didn't.
For those that are politically posturing in here. We didn't see this, we didn't plan any of this behind your back. superintendent is proposing this, it's being brought forward to everyone. But the reality is, none of us can vote on it, none of us can say we don't want it to happen, none of us can say we do want it to happen. So I think that's an important point. When you talk about your changing budgets, we move teachers all the time. We still have the same amount of funds, we switch them between buildings. You know, this is not a budget issue from our standpoint of misallocating funds. And you can make that argument all you want, it is definitely not. If you guys are not happy, I'm not happy with the outcome of this management restructure, we deal with that through the evaluation of the superintendent. We don't. We can't tell her she can't do it, period. So, that's all I have to say.
Sure, I'm just wondering, because you have the model in place of the elementary school with principal, in some cases assistant principal.
Just one.
This is a very different dynamic, okay? So each elementary school is kind of its own little sovereignty in a way, and this is creating many layers.
But you need to know that the elementary principals do work together and coordinate across the district the curriculum instruction assessment
I'm just wondering,
technology.
because you talked about, you've done some research. Okay, so beyond this chart and the actual, and the job responsibilities that you're listing, I'm wondering if you can share with us the benefit that, through the research you've done, of changing the model that works at the elementary level. Why is it not working at the secondary level, and what's the thought process behind this? Besides the fact that the board said it was a goal. Okay, so you as an educator, why is this a necessity? Why is this going to work better? What's the thought process?
Well, first and foremost, the need for continuity and practice across the board, whether it's for instruction, whether it's for behavior, whether it's for engagement of parents, whatever it is, that parents begin to develop expectations from the schools, and they see that once their student, you know, because when they enter kindergarten and go through those 6 years, parents come to understand what their school is all about. And as they go through too, they're seeing that, oh gee, if my child started at Vogel but is finishing up at Forbes or East or someplace else, it's the same. That's, you know, because when people see sameness, okay, then they know what they can expect from their schools, who they can go to in the schools, that, okay? That being said, we're trying to get curriculum instruction assessment all aligned and behavior, because we've had a lot of success with PBIS and middle school, and also some other training, how to deal with disruptive children. The high school has done a lot of work in, you know, reading common books and practices to align from year to year. The whole piece with school success plan that we have to begin in 6th grade and move across, you know, both the curriculum and helping students plan what they want to be, where they want to go. We want families, we want our families to see alignment. We want to be able to give them who they can go to for their child at that school. You know, I can't tell you how many times, you know, calls come down to me, gee, I tried calling this one, I tried calling that one, no problem, I'll get hold of them, they'll call you back. Okay, this is the one specific person, you know, that they'll know they can go to. And what we're trying to implement with the restructuring of our technology is that a parent can call in, and that not only leave a voicemail, but also it'll become an email. So, you know, there'll be 2 ways of trying to make a contact with the school.
Will that be unique then to the secondary level?
It'll be across the district.
I guess when I'm getting more...
But then, okay, just trying to create, I mean, we have more children in 3 grades, or we have equal number of children in 3 grades that we have in 4 grades, okay? And I think, Danielle, you were saying you were doing some research today about, you know, our numbers. You know,
when they go from grade to grade.
Yeah.
When I looked at the past 14 years, the average enrollment from 5th grade to 6th grade, so coming from elementary going into middle, is a 3% increase in enrollment. And then going from 8th grade to 9th grade, it's a 16.55% decrease. And then it keeps decreasing 10, 11, 12. And that was over a 14-year period.
If we can establish this, an idea or a feeling for a parent and for the children themselves of a smaller community. I mean, they can still take advantage of the clubs and of the sports and the music and everything else that the school has to offer. But if they have people to, you know, their teachers, that it's easier to bond and have that teacher or an administrator who will know every child on that grade level. We can do more prevention and intervention instead of dealing with the high discipline rates or what. And so then we have a less disrupted learning environment.
Okay. I think you touched on it. I'm just wondering more kind of why this particular model? What did you look at? I mean, is it modeled after something else? Is this something you've created? Is this something that...
It's a half and half.
Okay.
In most districts, when they do go to a model like this, there is much more depth in the central office. Okay, they may have kept an assistant superintendent, or what are they calling them now? But district curriculum people for the district. I mean, we had instructional leaders in literacy, numeracy 2 years ago, and then we lost it, or 3 years ago, and then we lost it 2 years ago, and so now we're trying to bring it back, given what we've got to do. So I tried it last year, trying to, and this is no criticism to our assistant superintendent, she did some really heavy lifting, but still it was too far away. Okay, and as the superintendent, I am supposed to be instructional leader for the district. I've spent a year of, working in a superintendent's network and how do you make that happen, and creating a plan in order for it to happen. And, what's your big bet? So my big bet is that I was giving up a central office person to have more people where it's needed, in the buildings, on the grade level, in the content and common core areas.
Why not Luke 6 through 12? I'm just curious.
That's a good question, and it's there is a big difference between the growth and development of a middle school student and a high school student. And you'll have middle school teachers who couldn't imagine teaching high school and vice versa, and the same holds for administrators. But that is something with this design. We have, we no longer have a tag program at the middle school. It's been gone for 3 years now. And yet what we do is we create honors classes in 8th grade. Well, we could be doing Algebra 1 in 8th grade, or geometry. We could be offering those kind of courses in 8th grade where students begin to earn the high school credit. And maybe it is a high school teacher who comes down and teaches it.
This will facilitate that?
That's something that we take a look, see if if we don't come up with something that brings more people into our high school, some magnet, something that draws students to remain or come back. And if we say we only need a 0.8 for a particular math class, well, maybe that person can go to the middle school and teach that class there. And then, you know, as we want to develop internships and real-life experiences and working with practicing professionals as the kids get into junior and senior year of high school, or when they need the time to develop their capstone projects. How do we get that time, you know, and how does it become part of their school day? We need more flexibility for our students.
Foreign languages, where you offer 5 years at a high school, but you only have 4 years of high school. So you move the language down to 8th grade, and then you have 5 years to get 5 years of the language.
I think we could have done this without this reorganization.
With it labeled as a middle school, you had to do it as a middle school course for high school credit. Now that it's a single institution, you're just teaching it.
My support of this idea when it was first proposed was to have kind of a transparent alignment such that you could do this stuff. But what I found really objectionable when my kids were in high school is that they could never get the right courses. There were too few offerings or at the wrong times, and they could never, you know, it was very, very difficult finding that alignment. And then there was always, what you would hear from so many parents, you know, like particularly in math was like, you know, the worst, because the lack of alignment between middle school and high school was, you know, ridiculous. Kids, you know, everybody was teaching it differently. There'd be some real hacks teaching at the middle school. There'd be some great ones, and you know, you'd go from really great teachers to really bad teachers to, you know, back and forth. And parents were always coming up to me about the math, you know, being a real problem in the school. And what I'm hoping is that
that's
this
part
is
of
one
these
curriculum.
people.
This should be one curriculum. That's why we're doing this, right?
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, there's so much we have to clean up, you know, to make it better for the kids. I don't know, and it'll be little pieces. It won't happen all in 1 year.
So the CIAT at the elementary school, you're discussing between that and high school?
At the middle school.
At the middle school. So who's going to take over the responsibilities of everything the assistant superintendent does now at the grade school? All right. I mean, that's a significant conversation
but
alone, I think.
But no, because the elementary schools operate pretty much as one already. Okay? They have common goals as principals. They work together on how those goals will be measured. I'm talking academic goals. They did a common goal for parent engagement this year. That they did in their own way, in their own means, okay? But with technology, that was one concern by Fiona. And we have made sure, and I went over with Protected Harbor today, that whatever we do with technology, it's the same in every elementary school, okay? We've just purchased some instructional materials to support the Common Core standards in mathematics, because what is expected has changed in the hierarchy. It used to be a spiral. Now it's not a spiral K-5 curriculum. It's by second grade. These skills, concepts, strategies need to be known. And then moving forward, that's the last chance the student might see it, okay? And so how does that change? That changes how we teach, when we teach it, and how do we reinforce and support and extend. So, but the elementary teachers, the way they've designed professional development, that's always ongoing. We'll get better at it.
But now, where the assistant superintendent used to do that, now you're going to take on that?
No, it was pretty much with the principals, and the assistant superintendent said, okay, tell me what you're doing, how are you arranging it. It was by building, or by grade level teams, or by grade levels district-wide on the elementary level.
And what about curriculum? Will they be deciding that, building level, or?
No, that will come from the 3 CIAC because it's it'll be K-12. I mean, the 2 who are focusing on the secondary, I originally had one for the elementary, but until this gets into place, you know, I would keep that person as a secondary person at the middle school, because a middle school curriculum and instruction looks more like your 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
All right, it is, it's the other way around then, okay, I see. You're gonna have somebody right when you start this CIAT elementary off the bat.
Originally, yes, but I think I prefer them to be in the middle school, okay? And in the middle school, you can either be, you could be not an elementary certified in 6th grade, you know, but now teachers have to come out with a comment, with a specific content area for their degree. You're no longer an elementary person or a middle school with the way the certifications run.
Andrew.
Question first to Chairman. How many graduates did we graduate this past Sunday? How many diplomas did we hand out?
228 diplomas.
What was that?
228 diplomas.
228. And Cheryl, you said just earlier it was 250 graduates.
They didn't all walk. You asked me how many I handed out on Sunday.
Oh, so there were 22 students who graduated, got degrees, and what class were they part of? They were part of that class, they just didn't show up?
For whatever reason, be it military, we extended the school year. We lost several kids to military obligations.
So when I see that the high school's senior class was 255, only 5 of the 255 did not graduate?
I think, Joanne, you're working on all that information.
We have about 25, I think, slated to graduate in August, hopefully.
Okay. So our enrollment is higher than 255?
No, of that 255.
Of the 255, you said you handed out 228, and there were 20, you said 28 that's graduated but just didn't show up then.
Well, she's saying they're going to graduate in August. They must be a half a credit off or something, but signed 250 something.
So they didn't graduate on time?
I don't know when they graduated, Andrew. I handed out 228 diplomas on
I'm just
Sunday.
trying to, I mean, you know,
You're asking me a
isn't-
question I can't answer.
Right.
I'm telling you I
you
can
gave me
hand out
some numbers, and
228.
you know, it's like we do in the budget. We'd like to know what the numbers actually are.
You'll have to ask the person that can answer that question.
Okay, next.
Just before you move on with that, the way the state looks at it, they look at your graduation date, and then they also look at extended, they call it extended graduation or extended year, and they give you until the beginning, prior to the beginning of your next school year to include who are your graduates.
And so at the end of the day, you will have calculated what our graduation rate is?
The state does that.
And when will we get that data?
When do we get it?
Next year.
Yeah, next year.
Sometime.
Yeah, I shared it with the board. I'm trying to think, late fall, November?
They base it on cohort.
I think
So that the students who entered 9th grade, right, as a group of 9th graders,
Yeah.
that's how it's calculated.
I believe we got that in November or late
Yeah.
October.
Yeah. So we'll know,
Sometime next year.
Yeah.
Next academic year.
Yes.
Going back to this whole concept that we're dealing with tonight, when and what will be the board's evaluation process of you as the superintendent of whether or not this was successful? I mean, what's our time parameters? Are we going to be able to say, you're going to have some data for us in March? Are we this upcoming academic year, or are we going to have to wait 2 years? When will we be able to evaluate performance of this restructuring?
Okay. I would say that when I give the whole complete plan, or at least, moving forward, I would give you a quarterly update. The first thing will be who's hired for the positions that are left to be filled, their credentials. then exactly what we plan to do the first year, by month or by a certain date, what will be done. I expect to give you a whole blow-by-blow plan. I would think been in this business long enough to provide change, it takes at least 3 years to implement. You have to give you're gonna have to give, as you say, stakeholders to buy into it, to develop a total understanding of it, that first, and then to buy into it, to get feedback and to tweak it. And also, then the end result would be student academic achievement. Does it help prevent students from quitting school? Does it lower discipline needs? Does it get more parents engaged with programs at the school? There's a lot of different ways that we can measure it. I think the most important thing will be students who are participating in the school on a regular basis. Does our attendance go up? You know, lots of ways, but the bottom and top line is academic achievement.
Okay, and we're gonna be able to quantify this.
Absolutely.
And when will you lay out to the board what those quantifications numbers are?
Probably by October.
So by October.
I would like to say September, but I would say October.
I'd like to see
October,
that
November,
sooner
yeah.
than later.
You have to realize to go through the hiring process. There's some positions we have to fill.
Will you be having committees for these
Hiring?
new positions?
Yes, yes. So
And
we have to
then-
establish the whole, by the time you establish your committee, you know, that's why the ads went up, postings went up, because you have to post for a certain amount of time, you have to wait and see what you get for applications, you have to have a committee screen the applications, then you decide who you're gonna interview, you create your interview questions, you hold your interviews, maybe second interviews, or you've set up not only just interviews, but a whole real-life scenario for the person, and then you decide, and then you hire them, and you hit the ground running.
And then second, can we see like a chain of command if you're a parent and you're having an issue, you go to the teacher, like what would
Sure.
that, and then what would that same chain of command
The board did have
be?
a card years ago, I don't know, Paul, if you remember, but they had a card.
No, but with this new structure?
Yeah, no, but I mean, it was always a chain of.
And then the same for a teacher.
Mhm.
And then I do share concerns about event coverage, maybe if we could see how that would play out.